Hello and welcome to Painting Metallic Red. As you can see here, we have a Wraithlord. His hand has been left separate. It is magnetized, and so it's for easy swapping out of the model as well. And he's magnetized along other points. Now he was primed with Vallejo light gray. With an airbrush, Patriot 105, spraying it around 20 psi, and of course then given it a base coat of carbon black from Golden Paint Lines. It's their airbrush series of high flow paints, and carbon black, it's a really fantastic color. It goes on like in one pass, and it just gives you this just sheer black, and it just absorbs all the light. We're going to use gunmetal from MIG Ammo. We're going to use some of their acrylic thinner with this paint, and we are going to basically begin off with this base coat. Basically going to lay this on top of our base coat, and we're going to leave a little bit of the black remaining in kind of the deepest shadows. Now we're starting off with this nice dark black, again because we want to have this gradient of color in our final effect. So we start off with the black, and of course if you're using other colors, then just start off with a base of black and then come in with your darkest metal that you have, or you can simply mix black into a metallic and get yourself a nice dark metallic color. As you can see here, this is spraying on. Of course, I'm working with a Patriot 105 here, spraying, I believe, at around 20 psi as I work my way around the mall, and I'm spraying this pretty much right from the side and from the top. So I'm not spraying too much from the underside, other than just some of those little facets under his torso, just to get a little bit of color onto those areas. But otherwise, I'm trying to leave most of the black kind of on the underside so it remains as shadow. And of course, you can see I was just catching the hand there as well, and I'm just spraying just kind of the top areas. And of course, it's making sure I get a nice smooth finish on these areas. But of course, because we had that nice smooth base tone, the metallics are going to be laid out very, very nicely on top of here. Next, we're going to go with polished metal from MIG Ammo, their acrylic line, and we're going to be using a little bit of thinner, I do believe, with this as well. And here I'm basically going to be spraying it around a 45-degree angle downward at most of the model, as well as kind of straight from the top as well, doing a bit of a zenithal type of highlighting scheme, again just to get some of the high points. Of course, the little back aerials there, I spray just at the very ends just to get a little color transition running up the length of the aerials on his back. But otherwise, yeah, and you can see I tried to avoid some of the loincloth in between the legs there. Again, we're not too concerned with that at the moment, so any overspray onto those areas is not a big concern. But otherwise, that is it for metallic, and that polished metal just looks fantastic. It thinned it out really nicely, and again, it just looks great. Next, we're going to go with some Forge World Angron Red. This is the clear colors from Forge World that are for airbrush. But of course, you can brush this on by hand, but here we're going to use an airbrush. And again, I'm sticking with the Patriot 105, and I'm sticking with 20 psi, and basically we're just going to slowly build up the color onto these areas here. We're not spraying it on too heavily because, again, we don't want it to puddle, pool, or drip anywhere, and so you really want to build the color up slowly. Now you can see we're working with the camera in a fast forward type motion here, but you can see how the color slowly builds up, and you can see how it starts off kind of looking a little pinkish, but again, that's just the first kind of light little layer. Now if we were considering how many layers we're laying on, I definitely would consider this more like 2 or 3 layers built up onto the model, but as I'm working continuously around, and anybody who's done this by airbrush knows that it's kind of hard to judge how many layers you've laid on, other than full complete times that you've stopped, allow something to dry, and then come back to it. Whereas here, again, it was just pretty much laid out one continuous spray, but otherwise it would roughly equate to about 2 or 3 layers onto this model here, and we're covering the entirety of the surface. So we're mostly catching it from the top angles, the top 45 degrees angles, and a little bit on the underneath here, because again, when it sits on top of the black areas, it doesn't translate into like changing into a black red or anything like that. It just stays black because this is a clear color. It's sitting on top of the metallic, and there you can see we've built up our final layers of color. We've got a nice deep red, and that is it. That is metallic red, and that's pretty much how I've gone for most of my Aeldari models. And so thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Like and subscribe and all that other usual jazz.